are live. And there are all Bill's teeth. Welcome to episode 257. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got 1 little, 2 little, 3 little. Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Thank you for coming on board. Nice to see you again. We've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. Always nice to have you on board. It's been several weeks, so
Yes,
here we are back at it again. And we've got Stan at the Palisades. We're hoping somebody will walk by that will make the stream a little more interesting. We've got John K. Alvarez. What's happening, man?
How are you, sir?
Another day, another 4 cents. So
You get 4 cents?
Could be better, could be worse. That's how I'm looking at it these days. So, I guess there's just no other way to put it than this, than to say it the way that I put it in the blurb. Anthony Hopkins is just one of God's gifts to the world. To the He just is.
Yes.
And we had this conversation a few weeks ago, and we were talking about in our little group that was the texting group. The strong correlation between creative and crazy. People cutting off their ear and mailing them to women, but the Philip Seymour Hoffmans and the tragedies. But, you get somebody like Hopkins, who just, I think, turned 87,
Wow.
has 49 years of sobriety. Yeah, guess what? That guy's feet are on the concrete, or, it seems to be. And there's no better example of that than Roger Donaldson's The World's Fastest Indian. So if you guys are ready to go, shall we begin?
Let us go.
Oh,
Boogie woogie. So, there are 4 lines that I'd love to hear every once in a while in a movie, and when it's done right, it just makes it for me. And I remember the first time I saw this movie, I used it all the time. Who is this guy? Because you're just like, it's like watching fucking Bilbo, Hopkins, just fucking like hopping and skipping and jumping all over the world through this incredible adventure, Bilbo Monroe. And like Hopkins' performance is just so strong that it creates suspension of disbelief. Like you cease to see Anthony Hopkins, you actually see Burt Monroe in the film. And I want to start out by saying that this film is available now on Tubi. So please take your son. It's been 20 years, 2005. It's been 20 years of The World's Fastest Indian. Let's get started with one little, two little, three little Indians over there. What did you think of this film? First time watcher, right?
Yeah, first time I saw it, I didn't even know it existed. I had no idea what it was about when I put it on. I just went with it's a title, and sitting there waiting for the vampires or the werewolves to pop up, and it was a really delightful film. I watched it with my wife, and I love these formulaic sort of historic figure, hero quest movies. It's a formula for sure. It even admits it takes all the historical information and sort of twists it around and creates a narrative about it. But it was delightful. It did its job. Both of us were sitting there on our phones like, who is this guy? What was the engine? How big was the engine? How fast did he go? We were looking it up like we were researching a term paper, and it was really, really good. Just watching this film got us into this obscure New Zealand motorcycle guy. It's nothing that we would normally be interested in. And then we left like, hey, we're experts at this guy. It was a fine movie.
All right. Eric, what did you think? First time viewer?
Yes, sir. Kind of like everything Bill said, delightful is the perfect word. Didn't know the movie existed. Never heard of this guy. Didn't really, no offense, I didn't really care about the subject before getting into the movie. But then when I sat down and watched, I'm like you said, who is this guy? Peeing on lemon trees and cutting the grass with gasoline and shit like that. Those little quirky things, I'm like, okay, that could be fun. But then what I really what I really enjoyed about it's basically a road trip movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I really like that too. And I'm a sucker for those road trip movies, whether the main character is quirky or not. But I love when he's going from here to there, a fish out of water, and he's meeting all these interesting people on the way. It's a simple premise, meeting all these interesting people on the way to his final destination. And I really, really enjoyed it. I was expecting very little just because of what I read of the plot, the blurb on Google, and I ended up really enjoying it.
John, first time viewer, or had you seen it before?
You know what? I knew of it, but I've never seen it.
Okay.
And I knew people who had seen the movie and said they actually told me I should watch it because some of these guys were in plays that I wrote.
Okay.
And a friend of mine used to laugh at my plays a lot because he said, you have these happy ending plays, as he puts it, And I said, as I told him once, I said, what, you mean the ones that sell so I can make money so I can support your plays? And he started laughing. He went, yeah. I got two things. I really got two things out of this movie as I was watching it.
Fireplace.
One, I've been watching Anthony Hopkins since I was a kid when I first saw him in A Lion in Winter. Back when he used to show him on the big reel-to-reels in grade school. That's how old I am. But you keep forgetting how charming Anthony Hopkins can be.
Mm-hmm.
He's always either the serious leader of the group or like a Hannibal Lecter, that intellectual, devious mind.
Mm-hmm.
But every now and then when you see him, when I was watching this, I was thinking, nobody else could play this part right. He brought the right energy level, the right amount of believability to it, and it just blew me away. Now, my father used to have movies that he would call White Hatters.
Sure.
And as I was watching it, because it was funny, because I caught the end of it today, I found myself wiping a tear away.
Oh.
Not just because of how good the movie was, and it was, but it reminded me of the times of my father. I was talking to somebody last year when I used to work at the movie theater, because the movie If had come out, the John Krasinski, Ryan Reynolds movie. And I sat there and I said, I didn't really want to see the movie, but when it was there at the theater, I said, oh, what the hell? I could see it for free. Mm-hmm. And I was blown away by it. Nobody makes good family movies anymore. Or they find them disheartening, or worse, phony. They go for the over the top.
Yeah.
But if you do it right, it's such a great story. This was such a beautiful road trip type movie. And I was shocked how much I was getting into it. Mm-hmm. I was shocked at the minor characters, because, Paul Provenza, or Paul, the car dealer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Rodriguez.
When he came walking in, I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen him in years. And didn't know he was in it. I was blown away by this movie.
He was, it's a very simple story, and yet it's just so fucking deep. I remember watching it the first time, and I'm like, within a couple of minutes, Hopkins is just, he's completely stepped into the role. Getting up at 5:30 in the morning, driving his neighbors crazy, revving his motorcycle, some crazy old man revving his motorcycle, Bert, the dad's like yelling out the window, Bert, come on, well, what time it is, what the hell's wrong, what's wrong with you? And, he's got the kid who just loves him, the son over there, that's just, his friend. And, next thing you know, he's going to the bank and he's got a date with like the bank teller. Like, who the hell is this guy? I just kept saying that the whole time. Would you like to go on to a do with an impeccable young gentleman? She's like, are you asking me out on a date? He's like, yeah, I guess I am.
I guess I am.
Sure, let's go. She's like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? And the thing of it is that it's not the story of a superhero. It's it's not the story of some guy who went out into space like Apollo 13. He's kind of the everyman, and by that I mean like the everyman, like man, like he lives in a garage. His bed is in the garage. He's got some tea. He's got a couple of cookies over here. He's got some chicken so he can make eggs.
The best part is, like you say, he's basically like a man's man, lives in the garage and stuff. The first thing he does when he gets the date to look good is he's sanding down his toenails. You know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. He's got a well-fertilized lemon tree. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah. He's just, he's peeing on his lemon tree. He's driving his neighbors crazy.
Oh my God.
And then, we get to the party. And, suddenly these 21-year-olds are like grabbing him. Come on, Bert, let's go twist. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on in this movie? And like this shapely girl. And next thing you know, Bert, he ditches his date so he can twist with some 21-year-old. But what's really
like that in New Zealand?
They're like that in South Jersey.
Yeah.
I mean, no offense. My nephew actually saw this movie when I was talking to him about it. He said, you'll like it. It reminds me of you. And I went, I don't ride motorcycles. He goes, trust me, just watch it. I work at Wawa now, and my manager walked up because former students of mine from high school and college, when they walk in, they ask me to come out from behind the counter to give them a hug.
Sure.
Or they refer to me as Uncle John and she's like, who the hell are
Did he freeze?
He got so excited he froze.
Come on, John, you can do it. Did Kim Kardashian come in? Well, John's got a date with the Kardashians.
I'm in the void.
Okay. It's like, get out, But
that's what I get for comparing myself to Anthony Hopkins. That's what.
Yeah, it's that's no small claim there.
That's right.
But the thing that really got me into this film, because I didn't understand where it was going, was when the biker gang rolls into his fucking birthday party and decides to challenge him to a race. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, I thought there was going to be a fight. But then, like, they're out there in the beach the next morning and his date's still with him. And when you see him go on that fucking motorcycle, it was the funniest goddamn thing I had ever seen. And like the way it's shot, like that real slow motion thing where you can tell he's like hyper accelerating.
Yep.
I'm like, what the fuck?
And then he shoots like a bullet, man.
Yep.
Yeah, just right past him. And of course, like the everyman, he shoots past him and then wipes out.
Yep.
And they're all laughing at him like loser, grandpa, this, that, and the other.
Right.
But it's basically the story of this man who wants to go to America to race his 1920 Indian Scout motorcycle on the salt flats out there. And I remember, and John and Bill might remember, the old days of Wild World of Sports when they would show that. Remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you would see the Formula cars with the parachutes to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, take it for.
What's his name? Buckaroo Banzai also had that. There was a great scene in the Salt Flats in the beginning where he's racing a car and he opens up the port, but that was on the Salt Flats. I did a tour and we got to see that. When you get to see any racing, that movie doesn't give it justice how flat that area is.
Really?
It's amazing when you see it because you're walking on it and you're picking it around and feels like salt, but it's just flat and solid. And it's amazing.
Well, you have a yearly thing down by you, John. It started out in Asbury Park, but now it's down in Wildwood, the Race of Gentlemen.
Yep.
Where guys have all those 1950s bikes and they do the whole dressing like that 50s gang in the movie and race on the beach.
Hell, in the early 1900s, because of a lot of Cape May history, people like Ford and what's his name? Got Mercedes used to race on the beach in Cape May. They used to race their cars and things like that just to.
Yep, there goes John.
And there goes John. Yeah, Kevin's calling him again. He's got he's got duties. The thing
You
of it
can't
is
keep me
that,
out, Mike. Stop blocking me.
And John stands corrected once again. No, just kidding.
Unmute, my man.
No, he took his headphones off.
This is a wreck.
And now he's muted.
John, I can't hear you.
And he can't hear. And he can't hear you because his headphones are off.
All right, so they get off the beach. He doesn't have enough money to get to the USA.
No,
Then what?
I think the problem is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you.
The thing of it is that I think that when you first start to see a little bit of trouble, one, he's got the health problems. He's got heart trouble.
Right.
But two is that nobody believes he can do it.
Right.
You know, and he's got all these people that are sort of surrounding him and, you know, but then when push comes to shove, that little boy tells him, you know, Dad says, you know, you're not going to be able to do it. And he's like, Dad says, everybody says that, you know, you're not going to be able to do it. You know, so it's the first time you see like this sort of, you know, puncture in the shield, so to speak, you know, that, you know, he's a real person, you know, he's larger than life, but he's also, you can see that hurts his feelings, you know, and, you know, the boy's like, I think you can do it, you know, this sort of thing. But I mean, it just the rest of it from there just starts off with the adventure. You know, he's got to cook on the ship. You know, and he makes all that food, and the guy puts the ketchup on. Oh, don't let Bert see you put all the ketchup on there. And he's like, "Hey, what the hell are you doing? You know, you're ruining the whole thing, right?" Oh, sorry, Bert. You know, this sort of thing.
Telling him not to smoke.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Tell them not to smoke.
Little bit that they had going through the thing.
I love that.
And they're all like blowing like smoke rings around him while he's saying this. You know, you never pollute my lungs with cigarette smoke. My mother taught me that. You know, this sort of thing. You know, he lands in America and then immediately befriends a transgender or a transvestite or, you know, an old school, you know, Hollywood queen out there who just becomes like his best friend.
Yeah, driving them all over town.
Yeah, driving them all over town, going out to breakfast together, just hanging out. You know,
that's because he had that bad experience with the cab driver right before he met her. You know what I mean?
And the girl with the flower.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was funny because he gives her the flower, and the smile happens and said, "That just made my day."
Right.
You know, that really set him up too as a character.
Yep.
Which I loved.
Yeah, he's more than a caricature. You know, it's more than a caricature of a person. It's a real person. You know, with it's extremely well written.
Yeah.
You know, to develop him as that way, and even the people that are in it for no more than 10 minutes, or also they come across as real people. You know, they're not just these cardboard cutouts. From, you know, the cab driver who's an asshole, the 2 minutes with the girl who's trying to rip him off for $10. You know, the girl working in the hotel,
the prostitute.
Yeah, the prostitute just for
Yeah.
that approaches him just for a second. This, that, and the other. Paul Rodriguez, who sells him the car.
Right.
Teaching him to drive on the right side of the road. He freaks him out so bad he just lights up a joint right there in the
That was
car.
funny.
Jesus Christ, Mr. Burt.
Yeah, none of those characters were overblown. They come in, they come out, and they leave an impression. And each one of the characters was different, which I really, really liked. It was like a nice rainbow of different colors as this guy's heading out into the desert.
Yeah. Getting out on the road and meeting that Native American Jake.
Oh, yeah.
With the dog balls.
Yeah. It gives him some ground up powder.
Oh, my God, that was a riot.
Tastes bad, real bad, but drink lots of water. It works. Guys, take it for a second. I got this.
I thought you guys had something. For this. We did. It's ground dog bones. I was like, that's hysterical.
I have sympathy pain for that one. I need some dog balls.
Jesus.
And then that's what was great is like all these characters, 10 minutes tops, maybe. Until we get to the end, Walton Goggins in it, maybe 15. You know what I mean?
It was awesome having him pop up.
It was cool seeing him pop up, and it's just all these characters are likable in their own little way. These little bit pieces or bit characters. What I really liked about Anthony Hopkins is he was, he just the little things that he did that made me laugh during every single conversation. Yeah. How every other word was what. You know what I mean? Because he couldn't hear what the guy was saying to him and stuff. It didn't come off as like an annoying joke. You know what I mean? The way he played it, it was endearing and funny, but you could also understand why the other people are frustrated with him type of thing, but it didn't ruin, like the tone of the joke and the comedy.
But you could also see why everybody loved him.
Yeah.
I mean, when the little boy walked in to get the carving knife from his mother, and he goes walking out and hides it when she calls him. And then when he goes to school, she walks over and goes, I hear you have my carving knife. She knew he took it, but she didn't really get upset. It was like, he's that type, and we kind of all know this type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a neighborhood. I don't want to say the whole movie, he's just obliviously just himself.
Right.
Being himself is just so nice and comforting to everyone around him that he doesn't even realize he's doing it. He's just being himself. His mother taught him how to be that. And he just brings this ray of sunshine for each one of these characters who has something that they're fighting. And this guy just sort of alleviates that for 5 minutes.
When he was the one scene, I'm sorry, Michael, I'm jumping too far ahead. When he was on the side of the road and he was asleep and the state trooper came up and knocked on the window.
Yeah.
And he's being charming, and you could see the state trooper just stopping. Yeah, okay, you still can't sleep on the side of the road. And he just don't sleep on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I started laughing at that because it was like just even getting frustrated. We just don't do that.
As we're hopping and skipping and jumping, which is fine. I mean, there's also the time where he's flying across the state line into Nevada. And he's doing about 150. He passes a cop, and that cop just whips a Yui. And by the time it's over with, the cop's like laughing. He's like, right. Don't die.
I got you.
There's more paperwork for me. Not this kind of
thing.
It's just these little quirky things he does. Like one of my favorite that actually got me to laugh out loud is like, again, we've seen him pee on the lemon tree, burn down the grass, to cut it type of thing.
Yeah.
But when the one guy who is trying to help him get registered for the race, when he walks in on him in the hotel, and he's putting shoe polish to cover up like the holes in the tires and shit like that, just because it makes it look brand new.
There was a good underlying theme in this, which I thought was great because it wasn't over the top, was that people had a certain admiration for him.
Right.
Yes, you had people. Yes, you had people who were saying he couldn't do it, but Tommy, the boy, said, "But I believe he can." Yeah. When he went to get the boat, when he came in to America off the boat, the one guy didn't know him, but the other guy said, "No, wait, I read about you in Newsweek." There was, and it was all these people who had an admiration for what he was trying to do.
Yeah,
and I really think that was a really cool theme that they kept going because it was believable.
Yeah, by the end of it, when he does it, and Walton Goggins is generally happy for him. Everybody else is generally happy that he broke the record. Even those two random girls, the brunette and the blonde, who just they came in out of nowhere. they're genuinely happy and they're all
Mhm.
likable people, and that's what I liked about it. Like, I didn't know the history. I didn't know if he was going to break the record or not.
Mhm.
I was generally happy, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
he's calling off, 195, 196,
Mhm.
and I know the motorcycle's a piece of crap, so I don't know how it's going to
Yeah.
end. And when he makes it, I'm like, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That I'm glad he was able to. I knew he was going to wipe out. I could tell that, but
Oh,
I'm
he
glad
had to.
he broke the record before that happened.
Mhm.
A secondary thing about the film that I thought was really well done was just giving like a flavor of what at least the western half of the U.S. was like in
Mhm.
1965.
Correct.
The people, you could call it the American spirit or whatever, but all these people, these Americans, recognizing the same pioneer spirit in him, and sort of
Yeah.
what would you say? Is that they're like recognizing another pioneer?
Kinship.
Yeah.
They recognize it, because some of them see them themselves. I
Mhm.
loved how when all the people were saying he can't do it, but all the racers were going, yeah, but come on, look at this. He went this far. They were all cheering him on type deal because they kind of knew.
Fighting the institution, but the institution wasn't so big that they all could just go, oh, come on. Come
right.
on, knock it off. Come on. Be that person that everyone else is surrounding this guy is.
Right.
Just, knock it off.
Yeah.
It's something that we miss today because our institutions are so big and our bureaucracies are so, immovable.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
that having that openness was really, really struck me in the movie. That sort of feeling of like, you can hitchhike across America or go on a road trip and find this America. It's as much as like a Hunter Thompson movie or On the Road with Jack Kerouac. It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
It's funny because as we talk about it, I realize in a way, the film is sort of a series of vignettes.
Mhm.
These 5 or 10 minute vignettes that he interacts with, like, a million different people. One of my favorites occurs when he's still in New Zealand, and his girlfriend or that girl he's hanging out with is taking him to the ship, and he's like, I thought some of the boys from the club would turn up today, to see me off. And she's like, well, they probably have to work today, which is, facts of life. You can't take the day off necessarily to see your buddy. But then the biker gang that he raced showed up and just gave him this wad of money, some beer money,
money.
And they just give him that biker escort, just a biker gang just gives him, an escort all the way to the shipyard. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yep.
And it was believable.
It's so human. It's so human. And Bill's got an interesting point. He just seems to touch everyone's humanity. And so they react to him on that level. Even when he goes into the bar, which is you get the feeling it's not the friendliest kind of place. But even there, he kind of, elicits it. She's like, sir, if you're going to be sick, there's a hospital, with everybody. Also,
older girlfriend? No, my wife. Still one of my favorite jokes in that movie. And Anthony Hopkins and Bert just looked at me and goes, "Oh, I'm sorry." It was great,
Well, I think the real Monroe in real life had gotten divorced after World War II. I did a little wiki searching, and then he just moved into that garage and he lived there for like the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Like he just lived in that garage doing whatever he did for the next 30 years. I mean, it's a hell of a story.
Just constantly working on this motorcycle. They said it had a top speed of 55 when he bought it. And he worked on it so much that they could go 300 miles an hour. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's not discount the fact that he also pulls up the Diane Ladd's house.
Yeah.
And just, Bill's right, like that sort of pioneering sort of thing. She's like, oh, well, you can take some of the wheels off this, and get that fixed, and you can borrow my welder over here and do this. And then the next thing
and while you're here,
yeah. And the next thing you know, he wakes up and he's next to Diane Ladd. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, did Bert get laid?
Yeah.
And it was funny because he's grabbing his back and said, "What did you do to me?" I was like, "There you go, go Bert, go."
You know,
And what's the first thing he says? "Get up and make me tea."
Yeah.
All right, I'll make it
He's
myself.
still a fella.
Well, even the lady at the bank, when Bert's getting up in the morning and the neighbors looking at her, goes, "What? Bad boys need some loving too." I laughed out loud at that. I'm like, these were these were believable people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what made them work. They worked like you said, Michael. They weren't caricatures.
Right.
They were genuine. They were presented as genuine people.
I think one of the things I really loved also was the scene where he runs into the Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
And what we know, of course, about Vietnam. And he's like, yeah, they tell me it should be over in about 6 weeks. And they're spraying this defoliant, to knock out all the vegetation so they can't hide. And you're like, oh, God.
Yeah.
This guy, he just seems so nice. Oh, I'm going to see my girlfriend. And, it hasn't, you could tell it hasn't kicked off yet. And he starts telling that story about the World War I, the Great War. And he's like, they said to be over in 6 months and, 20 million people dead, 4 years later, and it still wasn't over. And then the Spanish flu came along and wiped out like 25 million, right there on the spot. And, that wasn't over. Hold on a second. Sorry.
And it was funny because when you saw the young soldier, the look on his face when you saw.
Guys, take it for a second. I'll be right back.
Sure.
It's a reminder of, just because you live in times that are rough and there's tragedy happening, you have to still hang on to, this delightful nature that he had. He came through all of that. It's like when I used to go see my grandparents and I knew they had, took the boat from Italy and they saw all this rough stuff. And they lived in the inner city, but they were still always so happy and laughing.
Yeah, the thing is, what I liked about that scene is when Bert was talking about all the bad things that happened during World War I and afterwards. He wasn't trying to rain on the kids' parade. It was literally just regular conversation that just came out of him. You know what I mean? He was, and that's the thing. He's just so.
It was like an old.
Oblivious is the right word or not, given that situation. But like I said, he was just having a conversation with the boy.
I had a great teacher at Stockton back before it was University of Stockton University, when it was Stockton State. His name was Ken Hopkins, and he taught Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And Hopkins turned around and said he always admired the fact, and there was another English teacher I had there named Phil Klukoff, who said they admire the fact, like when someone like Shakespeare would take what you would consider the fool, and he was more intelligent than everybody else, or more aware of everything than everybody else. Anthony Hopkins was just basically saying everything old is new again. They said that here too, but we got through it, is what he was telling him too. And I liked that. I really thought that was a nice touch, because I think he saw it on the kid's face that he got nervous about it. And he said, but we got through this, type deal. And I like that. And again, it was all very simple. Like Mike said, it was all like simple storytelling that works.
It was a good movie to watch, especially in like the first week of the administration when everyone's freaking out and having like a hard time with changes and such. And that message of it'll be all right. We'll get through it.
Yeah, we'll get through it.
It's important.
And I'm sorry. Some of the comments were funny from people were saying. Really made me laugh. Because they were all real comments that people were making.
What are you talking about?
I was talking about any comment that when they were talking about, when he was in the diner and he took the guy's cigar.
Yeah.
And and he pokes it. Oh, don't do. And he does it again. He's doing it again. It was realistic. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't going for comic effect, but you got the comedy out of it because it was believable.
Yeah,
like that actor, I think, really enjoyed smoking cigars.
Yeah,
those guys were full on characters. I think out of all the characters that you meet, when he gets to the racetrack, it's like he's with his people, and there's all these fantastic characters. The cigar chomping, motorcycle enthusiast, and the Walton Coggins, and the famous Bonneville racer who's been winning for years, and the girls. It's like I loved all that collection of characters, especially Walton Coggins, but he's just good in everything. What was he, 19 in that movie? 18?
Something like that.
It's been 20 years of the world's fastest Indian. This movie's 20 years old, if you can believe it. So Hopkins probably playing 66, 67 years old at the time. It's funny because it's been 30 years or more, and almost 35 years now since Silence of the Lambs, and he's still been churning out these smaller, independent. I mean, he still does big things. I mean, he was the voice in Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon for Jimmy. He's the killer robot. So he's still doing, kind of big name things, but a lot more of the smaller, more independent. It's just churning out these fucking classics, like one after the other after the other. And it's fantastic. Listen, I hate to do this, but I think we have to cut this short. I've run into a family emergency. That's why I had to take a call.
No, dude, understandable.
Can we just kind of wrap this up here?
You got it, boss. Watch the movie.
Yeah, catch this movie. I give it a 5. I can't see anything really wrong with it if we want to go. I think I had. Hold on. Let's get to the part. Yeah, sorry we have to cut this short, but let's get to the part where we rate the film. This film has a rating. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather eat a handful of wet dog hair than watch the movie again. All the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination. This is why I watch films in the first place. What would you give 1 little, 2 little, 3 little Indians, the world's fastest Indian?
I'm going to give it a 4. I probably won't seek it out to watch it again. It was a delight. I loved watching it. Thank you for the suggestion. It's not quite a 5 where I'd watch it over and over and over or buy the DVD, but it was fantastic. I have no bad things to say about the movie. I would suggest anyone watch it at least once.
Okay. Eric, what do you got for me?
Yeah, I'll agree with Bill. Strong 4. I will probably eventually rewatch this. Don't know when. It's not one of those movies that I'm going to put on all the time, but I really enjoyed it. Went in, like I said, knowing nothing, and came out of it having a really good time. Great road trip movie. Great little movie, just following this quirky character, and I highly, highly recommend it. And it's a movie like we do a lot on the show. No one talks about. I'd never heard of it, and I'm glad we did it.
Okay. John, what do you got?
I'm lining up with you, Mike. I'm giving it a 5. Not just because I really enjoyed the movie, which I did, but I also enjoyed the feelings that it brought up. My memories and things like that, which was, to be honest, was a special treat. And Anthony Hopkins was absolutely fantastic, and there were people that were right there with him. I mean, it was a brilliant movie.
Yeah, the reason I'm going with 5 is I've seen this multiple times. I've owned it on DVD. Now I own it on Blu-ray. It is one of those movies I just like to pop in. It's more than a feel-good movie. I think it's a real work of art. There's some behind-the-scenes stuff here on the Blu-ray where Hopkins says, at the time, at least 20 years ago, he felt that was the best thing he had ever done. Agree, and that's not easy to say when it comes to Anthony Hopkins. But yeah, I mean, it's just the indomitable human spirit, and like Bill says, he has that infectious kind of thing where he can sort of touch the humanity inside of you, because he's not putting on any airs or trying to be anything other than who he is without even thinking about it, and people react to that in a positive way. So I love to watch this. I like to watch this maybe once a year. I'll pop it in, and it's just enjoyable to do. Okay, my apologies. I'm going through a bit of a family emergency, and nothing life or death, but something I have to attend to. I just found out right now. My thanks to. Real quick, Bill, you got anything you want to plug? I got a little bit of time.
I got nothing.
Okay, Eric.
Hey, Internet. Eric here's YouTube channel. my theme or my gimmick this year is every month is going to have a specific theme. This February is nothing but fantasy movies, which includes swords and sandals and stuff like that. So I'm going to start off with the Conan movies. I'm going to discuss both Arnold movies as well as the remake with Jason Momoa. Saw it once. I remember enjoying it, but it's been, since it first came to DVD. But I'm also going to throw in some stuff that it's been decades since I've seen, like Dragon Slayer, The Dark Crystal, and my daughter's going to help with a lot of the Jim Henson stuff. It'll be a fun time.
Tom,
I sent you a thing, Mike. You can just, thank you very much. I'm doing a Reader's Theater show next week on the week of President's Weekend. And for everybody who is not in Somers Point, New Jersey, where the actual shows are going to be going on, it's the Saturday the 15th and the 16th at 2 p.m. And on Saturday's show, we're going to be showing it on Zoom live. We did this last year, and it seemed to work. Last year, we had about 8 shows. I was in about 4 of them. This year, we're in 9, and I think I'm in every one but 1.
Oh, wow.
What it is that these are playwrights from local playwrights in southern New Jersey, as well as Philadelphia, New York, California, Pittsburgh. They all send these stuff, and this guy selects them, and we do live reenactment readings. We don't just stand there and read them. We act them out with their script in hands, and they're actually very, very good. And if you want to get a chance to see me play a carrier pigeon, somebody wrote this whole thing in World War II. I get to play G.I. Joe with a cigar in my mouth playing a pigeon. Trust me, it's worth the price of admission.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Very nice. For this channel, I just put out a video on Friday or Saturday for Drew Hendrix's Companion, which I thought was one of the best horror comedies I've seen in a long time, with Sophie Thatcher, who I'm becoming convinced can do no wrong, because I just also saw her in Heretic. Aside from this, tomorrow I should be interviewing Barrington Martin II, who was a congressional candidate in the 5th District of Georgia. Conservative ticket, Republican, and we are going to be sitting down, if I can pull this off, I think it's going to happen, discussing the state of Black people in America, because that's a conversation I've wanted to have for a while, and it's something that he's always going off about. And we sort of park our cars in the same garage on this one. So I'm looking forward to that conversation. Next week, we will be here live streaming next Wednesday for Scott Cooper's Hostiles, which is maybe the best Western I've seen since Eastwood's Unforgiven. So lots coming up. I'll probably at least catch one movie this weekend and do a review on that. Keeping the channel going. My thanks to One Little, Two Little, Three Little Indians. My thanks to Hey Internet Eric here. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. God bless you all. We will see you all in the next video.
Cheers.
Be well, Michael.
Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by. Like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button. Thank you.